my passion is to paint old homes. All these images which I have saved and I put in this exhibition at Jahangir Art Gallery called The Brick and the Stone, 80% of the homes are gone. I try to make the painting speak about the experiences that the house had. No, I don't shy from that. I try to use the failures in some other success. Paint what people want, but at the same time, you have your own journey as to what you want to paint. And you may make 20 paintings which you don't like before you make the 21st, but the 21st may crack it.
Hello and welcome to our today's episode of Art Connect Studio presents The Artist Table. जावेद अख्तर साहब का एक गीत है, पंछी नदियाँ पवन के झोंके, कोई सरहद न उन्हें रोके। मैं उनसे गुजारिश करूंगा कि अगर उसमें एक और नाम ऐड कर सकें तो वो है आर्टिस्ट का, क्योंकि एक आर्टिस्ट ऐसा होता है जिसके लिए कोई सरहद नहीं होती। और आज हम आपको उन आर्टिस्ट से मिलवाना चाहते हैं जिन्होंने अपने को किसी भी दायरे में बांधा नहीं है। उनके पास में ऑयल, वाटर कलर्स, पेस्टल्स, फैब्रिक, दीवार, कैनवस, पेपर, लकड़े, कहीं पे भी कोई भी मीडियम नहीं छोड़ा है। हर जगह पे जहां पे उनको घर पे टेबल दिखती है वहां पे आर्ट हो जाता है, पर्दा दिखता है वहां पे आर्ट हो जाता है, दीवार दिखती है वहां पे आर्ट हो जाता है। So I would want you to introduce to Nandita ji. Namaskar, ma'am.
Namaskar.
And I welcome you to my show, which is
Thank you.
The Art Connect Studio presents The Artist Table.
Thank you.
Ma'am, let's start with the very basic thing के इतना सारा आर्ट आप करती हैं और इतना ब्यूटीफुली आप उसको प्रेजेंट करती हैं. So what is your inspiration? How did you start?
Actually, I started because I always loved art. I don't know when it really started, but from when I was in school, I loved art. So I used to always be appreciating paintings, going to museums. But the passion really started when I had a neighbor by the name of Prafulla Dhanukar, and we used to stay in houses opposite each other. She had a studio. So I loved the smell of the paint and the creativity and how from nothing she used to make something. And another source of inspiration was Mr. M.F. Hussain. I saw him painting at Pundol Art Gallery. So on a blank canvas, in the approximate time of about 10 minutes, without any sketches, without stopping, he created a masterpiece.
Wow.
So I just fell in love with art. But that's really not my profession. By profession, I'm a teacher. I am a professor and I have a PhD. So my name is actually Dr. Nandita Desai. But my passion lies in art. And I discovered it a little late in life, but I think it's better late than never. And I got really interested in exploring the boundaries or the lack of boundaries of it, to have a limitless, interpretation or approach to art. What can I use to make my art come alive? What can I use to make it feel real? What can I use which makes me feel good and which conveys the idea that I have about this particular painting to the other person?
Right.
So if I want to have an idea of this as an old home, which I love to paint old homes, then I want to put some grass in it and I want to put some very old photographs or somebody's old picture or something in it to make that particular painting come alive. I love landscapes, I love flowers, and my passion, of course, is old homes.
When you started your journey, like it was quite a late journey,
yes,
right? And you said you talked about your inspiration, but then from there, what has inspired you to try various mediums? Because you've not stopped at one thing.
Yes.
Like generally, when an artist starts, he would try to do one particular thing, stay in his own or her own comfort zone. कि मैं acrylic कर सकती हूँ, मैं watercolor कर सकती हूँ, but you've not stopped to that. You've used all the materials. So I'm basically very keen to understand why so many materials and how.
Okay, because I think it's like writing poetry. It's a form of self expression. So at some point in time, I feel that I need to use oils to make this painting more vibrant. Sometimes I feel I need watercolors, I need pastels, I need acrylics. So whatever I think works for what that painting is going to become, that's what I use at that time. And I don't shy away from it, and I don't have any hesitation that maybe it won't come out the best. It's at least an expression of what I want to do. So
Right.
because I do art for myself, I do it to please myself, to make myself happy. It's not really for an audience or for an exhibition, though I've had several exhibitions, etc., etc. But it's not, that is not the purpose. But the first, probably the what struck me for art was the colors. So when have a house in Khandala,
Hmm.
so when we went to live there about 15, 20 years ago, I saw all the colors around me, the vibrant greens and the colors of the flowers and the colors of the earth and the sky and the sun, and the colors fascinated me. So my initial paintings were only of color.
Uh-huh.
So I just tried to capture the color, to match, to mix different colors, to see how many different colors I can get out of orange, how many I can get out of blue. So that was my color mixing workshop
Right.
for myself. And then I started my passion for everything around me, which was nature.
That's what I see
Yeah.
around with all the paintings, and I've
Yes.
been looking at, with various other artwork of yours, like your poetry is also, your art also is around the nature, something which is like, which you see around a lot, and you give a different perspective to it. It's
Yes.
just not a picture which you click and you would not just copy it. You
No.
try to give a different
Yes.
dimension to it.
Yes.
So that's where your paintings basically
Yes,
stand out.
I think so, because I think painting is not about copying.
Yeah.
There has to be soul in the painting. There has to be something I want to speak. There has to be something I'm telling. So that's why I think my poetry and my painting go very well together, because
Right.
I feel in a certain way. I feel very deeply. A lot of my painting poetry is all about nature. So that and the painting goes together, and the painting is all about a mood. So I and it's about inspiration. I may come across a magazine and I may see some art, or I may see some color, or I may see somebody else's artwork which may just inspire me. I had an interview once with I interviewed Jangir Sabawala, and I asked him, I said, all these colors that you put into your painting, how do you remember all these colors, how do you get all these colors? He said, when I'm traveling, then I have a sketchbook,
Hmm.
and in that sketchbook I note down all the different colors of nature. So what different
Oh,
colors of
wow.
blue he finds, what.
Hmm.
So that's how I get my inspiration. So that was, yeah, I like to learn from people. I like to go for lots of workshops and find out what people are doing. I've come to your studio many times to see what you are doing.
Right. I've seen you paint a lot. Like we were talking about this, you paint a lot of houses. You paint so, uh, like when you are doing those houses or the landscape. So what is your inspiration in doing that?
Well, my inspiration landscape is because I love nature, and I said around my home in Kandala there's lots of nature vistas, so that interested me, and I love the impressionists. So I love Monet and Manet and Pissarro, and I love the color, the appreciation of light and how they captured it, and pointillism. So I started appreciating nature and landscape painting from there. But that was my initial inspiration. I still do landscapes, and I still get commissions for it, but my passion is to paint old homes. So during the COVID, I explored all the old homes in the Lonavla Khandala area, and most of them were abandoned because at that time the boom had not come. People had
Hmm.
not realized that the only place you can easily travel to is close
Close
by.
by. Yeah.
So since COVID kept everyone at home, all the homes were just left behind. So I found such a fantastic beauty in them, in the architecture, in the colors of their walls, in the moss that is there, green moss, in the stairways, in the roofs. And I felt there was some life used to be there. People used to live there. This is a speaking a piece of art.
Yeah.
So I traveled all over, even to Pune, and I went to small vadas, and I took all the photographs. And then I used to come home and assemble the photographs in a kind of a collage, and try to give a new interpretation, more beautiful and more representational and more alive to that particular home. So if somebody has stayed there and then they looked at this collage and the painting that I made from that, they would say, wow, you've given it a new life. So it's about resurrection, which is also what reflects with COVID.
Right.
That you're resurrecting, you're coming up from something which no one had imagined. So these homes are dead, but I'm giving them a new life. That's what I feel. And part of this is also because my father was in the government service. He was in the IAS. So I've changed 9 homes. So, and most of the homes were in the districts. So they had all these palatial houses, old palaces, and all of them were beautiful. So that love for homes is always there. And also psychologically, it's a search for a permanent home, because I was always moving.
Right.
So, I was always from one home to another home to another home. So it's, I think that reflects.
uh, like what inspires you to, or what are those thought process where you are using grasses, you are using pictures, it's not just painting or creating a realistic image. You would do something very abstract and then add a small picture to it so it speaks. So
Yes.
how does that inspiration come to you?
I take my own photographs. So when I take the photographs and then I put them across the table and I say, how does this speak to me? What do I want to highlight? I can't obviously do the whole thing. So some of my paintings only have one door. One is called Blue Door, which was displayed at Jahangir Art Gallery. So some of them only have roofs, some of them have a city of wood. It just depends on what strikes me out of all those 100 images I've collected.
Right.
So
Okay.
then I just collect 2-3 of them and put them together, and I think I want to work with this. Then once I start putting it together and I start putting the paint, and then I feel it needs more life. This part needs a tree, this part needs some real tiles, this one needs some more texture than what I'm able to give with the paint. So that the painting dictates the material that I use. I don't decide that this is what I'm going to put.
So
I look at it and I say, ये इसमें कमी है, इसमें खामी है, this इसमें नहीं है. So it needs some life, it needs some texture, it needs some help.
Say for example, this house,
Yeah.
this painting of yours, right there, you've taken around 100 pictures out
Yes.
of this, and when you are laying those pictures on the on your table,
Yes.
and then slowly like, so initially you will have something in your mind and the output would be totally different, or uh, like will you come to the same output which you had thought, or it basically grows along with the process?
No, so there are some things that strike me immediately when I go. That there's this blue color of this wall, or there's this green color of something else, or there is this construction of this staircase, or this door looks beautifully done. There is an old home which I have done, which is near Golden Tobacco, Ville Parle.
Yes,
So it's
yes.
completely destroyed. But what caught my eye was, I was at the traffic signal, and the light was shining on the stained glass of the windows.
Okay.
It's completely abandoned. So that's what caught my light, and that's how that painting started.
Right.
So I sent my driver inside and I got pieces of that stained glass. But the emphasis of that painting is on stained glass. Like this emphasis of this painting, which is behind, is on structure, on doors,
Right.
on how things are at angles to one another. And the blue, there was a beautiful turquoise blue somehow which has survived the ages. So that is the color which gave the form to the painting. I don't pre-decide, but I go there and I know that this part I like, this part I don't like, and then I choose from there.
So it builds up slowly.
It builds up slowly.
And then finally you've added to the nameplate. You've actually added the picture there. So
Yes.
it is giving a very
It
authentic.
is somebody's house.
Somebody's house. So it is giving a very authentic look to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking, maybe if I want to take it one step further and I want to see who the original inhabitants were, or go into the history or what, I'm still considering that, if I want to go into that.
Okay.
That's something I want to explore. But just now it's just saving the images. Like there was one image which I loved, which is in Khar, and I took the photographs and I did the painting, and the next time I went to get some clarity, it was destroyed.
Okay.
All these images which I have saved and I put in this exhibition at Jahangir Art Gallery called The Brick and the Stone, 80% of the homes are gone because everybody after COVID started building homes there. So there's nothing left. So these are the last remaining so-called images. Of course, I was chased away by dogs. I was chased away by chowkidars. Lots of things, drama happened. People didn't want, they thought, I am from the rival faction of the family and I'm trying to create trouble, trying to take photographs and evidence of what's this house. But it was nothing like that, but it was a journey.
If we say, it would not be wrong that you are being a catalyst to save our ancient
Yes,
heritage
yes,
structures,
yes,
which can become some kind of memories for
yes.
someone.
Somebody
So
may recognize it. This is not the Taj Mahal or something, but somebody
right,
somewhere
may recognize
somewhere
it.
has lived in it. Somebody had memories in it. It has. So I've written a poem called My Old Home, which basically talks about this. You know,
Right,
that my
ma'am.
old
Right.
home was lying by the side of the road, and what memories it has, what voices it heard, and what things are there in its walls.
So nice,
So
ma'am.
that's what I try to. I try to make the painting speak about the experiences that the house had.
So, ma'am, when you are using these like various materials, so any challenges you face while mixing two or three or four kind of material, probably plastic with jute with colors. So, how do you cope up with that?
Well, I think that each material, new material, apart from canvas, has its own personality and its own challenges. So, if you're painting on silk, it's different. If you're painting on jute, it's different. If I'm painting on wood, it has its own channel. If I'm painting on untreated wood, it has its own challenge. So, it just depends on the material, what is being used. As long as it blends together, I'm fine with it. But sometimes two materials don't go together, because I like to keep natural with natural. So if it's wood, I like to keep it as wood. Anything related to wood or anything related to something that's natural. If I work with brass, then I like to have any kind of metal to go with the brass. I don't like to, mix plastic with any of these. Basically, I don't like to work with inorganic material. I like organic material.
For example, we start with canvas. So we know that on canvas we can use acrylic, we can
Yeah,
use oils. But then you decide to work on a wood,
yeah,
right? So wood ke liye, then there would be a research going
yes,
at the back
yes,
of it,
yes.
that what materials can be used,
Can be
or let's
used.
suppose when you're talking about silk.
Yes.
So
Then you have
then
to.
how do you do that research?
Then
What
it's
is
YouTube Zindabad. Or if I have a friend, a special friend, an artist who's working in wood, then I call up and say, look, what do you do? With this. Now, when I'm working on silk, then I have an aunt in Japan. So she is familiar with silk. So I will ask her, how do they paint on silk? What is the materials they use on silk? So it depends on the material, especially wood. When my house was being constructed, I went there one day and I saw this whole lot of, what would you say, abandoned wood, pieces of wood here, there, of different shapes and sizes and all. I said, this is just incredibly beautiful. I need this. But it was lying outside, and it was, at the mercy of the weather. So
Hmm.
we had so much of treatment to do to it before it could become worthy of being painted upon. But then I made a series of wooden sculptures out of it,
Wow.
about 20 wooden sculptures. But in that, the painter as well as the carpenter were very involved. इसको ये खराब हो गया, ये पार्ट काट दो, इसको ये पॉलिश लगाओ, इसको ये इसमें कीड़ा है. The whole thing had to be pest controlled. So it just depends, and also what paint would stay on that wood and would show up on the wood, because most of the wood, there is one painting I've done called City of Wood, which unfortunately or fortunately is sold. But the wood kept absorbing the paint. No matter what I did about 4 layers of acrylic. And then I decided I cannot do acrylic on this. I have to do only oils. So then I did the oils on it, and I mixed gesso with the oils.
Okay.
And that's how the paint stayed.
When you think about a new material or a new thing, so there are a lot of experimenting which is going on. So
Yes.
you might be facing a lot of failures also,
Of course.
and you don't shy away from that.
No, I don't shy from that. I try to use the failures in some other success.
That's right. That's what I wanted to understand.
I don't like to throw away things.
When you talk about failures of a material, I've seen you have painted a beautiful table. It was an old table which you've painted and recreated a beautiful artwork out of it. So, can you tell us more about these various materials or various surfaces which you use for painting?
Yes. See, I'm very fond of antique furniture. So is my husband. So we collect furniture. And when I go to these furniture shops, I see all these odd pieces of, lying around, which nobody wants, So I pick them up and then I ask him whether I can take it, and then I paint them. So this table which you're talking about was just lying there, that put kachara on top of it. So I saved it. And then I have a friend in Nepal, a very close friend, though now he's no more. He's the probably the most well-known painter in Nepal. He's called Lane Singh Bongdale. So he used to paint these ladies, in different forms, just like the Tagore school. So I got inspiration from that, and I painted this table and its small table next to it with these ladies just lying around in some palace. So that was it. But apart from that, I paint chairs, I paint cupboards, I paint anything I think needs painting. So my husband has famously said that only I'm left to be painted. Everything else is painted in this house. But seriously, I also paint trays. I paint lamps, and now I'm starting a line of linen shirts, white linen shirts.
Okay.
I haven't really decided what the theme is going to be, but it's probably going to be flowers.
You also do jewelry?
I also do jewelry. So I use waste materials. And this last exhibition I had was at the Geo Garden. And it was basically a sustainable, environmental friendly exhibition where you use industrial waste.
Okay.
So you use parts of computers, which I can show you, or some bits and pieces left from a brass factory, or some nails in the house, or some hook from somewhere. Anything can be, I have converted it into a piece of jewelry.
Wow.
So basically, what I mean to say is that you don't say that if I can't paint a perfect painting or paint a perfect picture, I'm not an artist. You're an artist in whatever you do. Whatever you put your mind to and you think I want to create something out of it, you can do it.
That's nice.
Passion should be there to create something beautiful. And initially, it should be for yourself. If you're happy with it, that is most important.
So when you make like paint these furnitures or this, so do you get commission work out of this also, or
Well, I have had inquiries, but I haven't really taken it up.
okay?
Because for me, I like commission work, provided it's very specific. Like I painted a picture I can show you of Harry Potter. So somebody's child was, second son was born, and the earlier son only wanted a painting of Harry Potter. So I painted a huge painting of Harry Potter. So if it's very specific and you say what you want, it's fine. With commission work, the only problem is, as you also know, that it has to be very specific.
Right.
Because if they don't specify, then you don't know what they're looking for. At the same time, if you want to have your artistic take on it, and if they don't like it, then it becomes a big problem.
Right.
But I have done those wooden sculptures which I had. I managed to sell all of them. All of them have gone.
And then coming to the fabric again, so
Yes.
it is very interesting that you're saying you are starting to make those linen shirts.
Yes.
So what is your inspiration behind that? Why shirts, and why like the clothing?
Well, I think nowadays the fashion is for painted clothes. A lot of it has come into the market, painted saris, painted, and I feel that it's very, what would I say, studied and structured. It's like, look how outlines of a flower, and then they painted the flower inside. Maybe there's some other stuff there. I want to do a little more freehand, a little more abstract, little more play of color. And I think white is the best surface. And I love linen because I love organic. So I thought white linen shirts is the way to go. But then I make table mats, I make table, covers. I paint anything, cushion covers, you name it, and I paint it.
So I have actually I have also met a couple of artists who would wear the entire clothing painted by them.
Yes.
They even paint their shoes.
Yes.
They paint their caps and
Yeah.
shirts. So it's a very nice
Yes.
idea, and you something hand painted a
Yes.
shirt would be something I would love to wear.
Yes.
So I think once you make it, I'll be your
Okay.
first
For sure.
first person to buy
I'll
that
paint your
shirt.
band gala or jacket with it.
Yes. I would love to wear that,
For
ma'am.
sure.
So, ma'am, you've done PhD, you do cooking, you write poetries. So, apart from various materials which or mediums which you're using, you are doing a lot of other things also. So, take us through that journey of yours, like what PhD you've done, and who are your mentors, who are those inspirations you look up to. So, can you just tell something about those, ma'am?
Okay, I loved art actually, even from school. I used to win a lot of prizes. But at that time, the thinking was कि नहीं, पढ़ाई में अच्छी है, पढ़ाई करनी चाहिए. You must study. So then I went on to pursue my PhD from St. Xavier's College in Indian culture. So and from that is born the love for, I guess, India and
the
Indian culture and Indian homes, and so there's a love that comes out of it. But I am trained as a professor. I've taught in Xavier's and in the US, and that's my training. But I haven't been. When I started out, I hadn't been trained as an artist. But my first trainer, so to say, or teacher was this very humble gentleman by the name of Vinchurkar. He used to teach in the nearby school, DC
okay.
school in Kandala. So actually, he came to teach my son because my son was very naughty. So he used to come and teach my son and show him how to mix the colors. And so I got fascinated. I said, "Will you teach me?" He said, "Yes." And my initial paintings were very bad. At least I thought they were very bad. But he said, "I think you have some potential. I think you have
Uh-huh.
potential. I think you should pursue it." Then I came back to Bombay, and I'm not aware of when, but I came across Mr. Satendra Rani. So he mentored me a lot, and he liked the spirit of experimenting. So he's saying, "I like the fact that you're not scared. I like the fact that you try, and I like the fact that you know are always wanting to continuing to paint." So that inspired me a lot, and he used to come and see, and he used to criticize and tell him, "This is not good, but this is good, this is good." So that gave me an artist's eye, and I started going to lots of shows and lots of classes.
Yes.
Then I had a stint in London, at the London School of Art, and then there I learned portrait painting and landscape and color mixing. I did that, but I found that I really was not that great a student because I always did what I wanted to do at the end of the day. So that was my journey as a part of academics and then an artist. And then I was always very interested in food. So I trained as a chef at the Taj and at Cordon Bleu in London. But even in my food, if you see my plating of the food, there is art in the food. So I will always look for color in the food. I will look for balance. I will look for how things are placed. So I attended an art food workshop to see how I can plate my food better. So up till now, I've been cooking for myself and my friends or on orders. Now I'm starting a series of videos, and I'm on YouTube, and I'm trying to see how to take that. And poetry has always been there, but the poetry and art are very enmeshed.
Right.
So the poetry inspires art, and the art inspires poetry, and vice versa. So that book is also going to be published hopefully soon, and I haven't decided what to call it. But
So I've seen one of your paintings which is very breezy sort of. So can you just just, chant some
yeah,
few lines about those
I don't actually
poem?
verbatim remember the
Huh.
poem, but I had written this poem about wind between the trees, how the wind was going through the trees and how it was going through my life because I had so much of change. I came from US and I settled down in India. So it was a momentous change for me. So it was like the whole wind is blowing me away. I didn't know what I was doing in this Jain household, and it was a tough journey for me. So that inspired a painting of trees and wind between the trees, and
So, ma'am, it's very fascinating to see all those material lying. So, can you just take us quickly through all the materials which you are using?
okay.
I've seen so many materials which I have not seen so many materials. So, can you
Okay.
just take us through
Of
that?
course, I can. I'll take you to my table where I paint. And the idea I want to say here is it's not a question of how many new materials are there in the market or how many new can I use in my painting, but there's a curiosity of what is new in the market, what can I use, can this enhance my painting, uh, can I utilize this? It's that kind of feeling, that
Right,
to make this painting speak what I want to speak. It's more about that than the use of the materials. But yes, the materials enhance it because each one has their own quality, with the ones I'm using. So I can
right.
show you that.
So, let's go there.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go there. Okay. Usually I start a painting with gesso because I think here, white texture gesso or black gesso or any gesso. But today I can't finish it because the gesso doesn't dry. But I just want to show you what the gesso does. It just protects the canvas and it protects your painting and it gives a much better texture. Okay, so start with the gesso. You can do things like this with the gesso. You can do this with the gesso. You can do anything you like, any kind of texture you can create to create the background. Okay,
Hmm.
so I usually like to start with gesso. Then I found this little book of flowers and I'll attach this. Just now I'll put it on the gesso just to show you. Okay, so this can be just one interesting part of the painting. Then I can also use leaves on it. Cut the leaves and take parts of it. So you just put it, make it like one painting, this way. And I can use mica powder. Mica powder gives a very nice shiny color. So if you want to just highlight this and you have some gold color, it's just enhancing. Then I can use metallic wax. Metallic wax also, it helps. I use my fingers usually. Metallic wax also helps to just give some shininess to the particular paint that you have put. Unfortunately this is dry, but this is the way metallic wax is used, just to give that extra shiny effect on top of the paint.
So when you're using a mica powder,
Yeah,
so mica powder will have a different shine, and
yeah, this will have a different shine.
different
So on
shine,
different surfaces
different surfaces, different
and I
shine.
also use distressed oxide.
Okay.
Distressed oxide is just like this, or you can take it with a brush. This is all basically to give a background. So you don't
Acha.
want the normal background. You want something that looks a little different.
These are all things which you use for the basics.
This is for the basic, and the
basic.
gesso is for the basic. This is for enhancing. Then you can also use inks. Inks are beautiful, alcohol inks.
So can you mix alcohol ink ink
course.
with oils and?
You can mix with anything you want. Yeah, see the
Wow,
texture you get.
nice. Yes.
So it's just, and on this, if you want to put leaves and you want to make a garden or you want something, it already has its own personality at the back. And then you put these
Right.
little flowers in between and you have a little painting. Okay. So, and I also use distress strains. These are all different kinds of, new painting materials. People are experimenting all the time. There's just, and paint plus, it's just paint plus. That's all. It has a different shine, it has a different texture, which you'll not get from normal paint.
So these materials would give that
Extra
that feel,
shine,
extra feel,
yeah, an extra feel,
extra feel
shine.
to the.
Yeah. So that's what this is. Also acts like ink, but see, it gives a diffused, thing.
It has
So
a
as a
different.
garden, it can
Yes,
have a
yes,
different
yes,
background,
yes,
and you
yes.
use the foil for it. You can use toothbrushes, you can use combs, you can use anything to get the textures you want. All right. I also use a lot of black ink. This is Sumi ink, Japanese ink. And I use Japanese stamp paper with the ink. So you put the ink there and then you have a different effect with the black and white. So all my black and white paintings are the Japanese ink.
So just one question which is just popping up here is like when you're using these material,
Yeah.
how do you then basically handle them while like once your painting is done?
Yeah.
So is it very difficult for you to maintain these paintings? Probably these it would have some weather effect on it. It would have. I like. Do you use some kind of?
I use varnish usually.
You use varnish, so
Yeah.
it will.
I use a varnish. I have it inside. I use a varnish on top of it, so it stays.
So it would not then disturb the texture of it. Varnish will hold those things.
So and this you don't use all together. You
I know,
use
I
what,
understand
yeah,
that. I understand that.
You want what you want. Then what else? I use glass beads also, which I don't have. I think they're over. But a lot of acrylic mediums. Each one you have to try to see. No, this is called glass beads. A paint like this is called glass beads.
Okay.
It gives the effect of small glass beads.
Okay.
This I use for the ladies painting. If I want to enhance something, then I just take. See, I've got these other things also. If I'm doing any royal, painting. Then I use these, I cut these up and I use them in somebody's fabric. I cut up all these sequins and make a night sky. So it just depends on what material inspires me. There's no such a thing in art as this is right and this is wrong. Everything is okay.
Right.
Provided it works at the end and provided you're happy with it. I also use a lot of Japanese charcoal.
Okay.
You get charcoal in the market, you get lots of charcoal, but that tends to fray a bit, and this thing, then you have to put the retardant on it. I like Japanese charcoal. So it just depends. Whenever I'm out abroad and all that, I'm always choosing different materials. Another material I really like is encaustic paint. This is beeswax. So you have to melt the beeswax and then you have to put the paint in it and then you have to paint with it, but there's no brush. It's a no brush painting.
Okay.
So you have to mix the colors and then you have to put them on a canvas and then you have to take a heat gun and you have to spread the paint.
Wow.
So there is no painting. There's no brush with it. It's a no brush painting. So it just depends on what you feel like using.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
It just coming to me. Like, are you also starting an academy to teach this to
No,
various people?
I don't think so.
Because
I still think I have a lot to learn. And I always use gold leafing also so many times. I'm always going to art station and other art shops, and I'm asking 100 questions, and I'm exploring and I'm finding out, and I'm making small investments. Let me try this. Let me try this. इसके साथ क्या होगा इसके? So it's all a matter of learning and having fun with it, I would feel.
Simply mind blowing, ma'am, looking at the materials which you've been using.
Thank you.
So, ma'am, would you like to say something to our audience, or some words of wisdom to those upcoming artists who are basically who get stuck with a lot of things? So, any words of wisdom to our audience, please, ma'am?
Actually, I keep remembering what Picasso said, that every child is an artist till he grows up. So you have to find out within yourself, first of all, if you have a passion and a love for art. That is the point number one. If you don't have the passion and you don't have the love for it, don't enter into art school and don't try anything to do with art. That passion is what takes you every day in the morning to sit on the table and to try and to figure out and to find out what I want to put on paper, what is it I want to create. At the same time, I would say that though my training is in academics, I feel that training in art school is very important, because everything has certain rules and norms and basics to it. So if you understand the basics and if you study the basics, then your journey becomes easier. I had to start a journey midway and I had to catch up on all the basics, and I had to create my own language. But if you have that background, if you have the ABC, then it's much easier for you to paint. But at the same time, the ABC of learning the rules of art is not art, because you just copy from someone else, or you just make paintings of trees and houses in the village and things like that. You have to find your own voice. You have to know what is it you want to paint, what is it you want to have in art, what is it you want to explore, which genre interests you. That is what the exploration journey is about. And in this, I think a mentor is very important. If you have a mentor, there's nothing like it. And also go to many art galleries, go and see paintings, look at videos, see how people created art, try to see how their journey is when painting starts to when the painting ends. So learn a lot, but find your own path. And that will give you satisfaction. Because I find that there are thousands and lakhs of students who are coming out of art school. And how is it that only few are successful? It's not only monetary success, it's the fact that they have found a voice which resonates,
Right.
not only within themselves but also with the people. They're saying something else, they're saying something with a lot of authenticity. So you have to be very authentic when you're doing your art.
It has to come through your heart.
It has to come through your heart. So this exhibition that I did at Jahangir, called The Brick and the Stone, was really, so many people discouraged me. This is all old homes. Who will come and see old homes? What is this you're talking about? Why do you want to do this? Why don't you paint some pretty landscapes? Half your paintings will be sold. I said, no, this has been my journey for the last so many years. This is what I want to display.
Right.
And luckily I got a good response. I'm not talking about commercials. Of course, many people need to paint because they need the money too. They are commercial artists and they are professional artists. Please go ahead, paint on commission, paint what people want, but at the same time you have your own journey as to what you want to paint.
Right. It has to come. The inner calling has to be there.
Yes. Yeah. You can be inspired, but don't copy.
Don't copy.
And don't get instructed by somebody.
Right.
And read a lot. Read about artists. Read about philosophy. Read about life. The more you read, the more your inner journey will be, the more your paintings will have depth.
Right.
So go ahead and paint. I would say there is no bad painter. Just start. And you may make 20 paintings which you don't like before you make the 21st, but the 21st may crack it. When you look at it, you get up in the morning at 7:30 and you see that painting and you say, okay, it's okay. You will never say, I'm happy. I till today will not say I'm happy. I don't like anything. I always find fault. You can self-doubt forever. But at a certain point in time, when you're making a piece of art, you have to leave it.
Right.
The more you mess around with it, the more colors you put, the more changes you make, the more mess it will become. Once it reaches a certain song, let's say, you have to leave that song. and then it speaks for itself.
So, ma'am, like coming to the end of our section, I would really appreciate if you can just, you know, say something or you read a small poem of yours which you've written.
Sure, I
Yeah,
can.
yeah,
And this is not representative of everything. Some poems are happy. I'm basically a happy person, but this particular poem is a bit sad, but it's okay. It's about home, so that's why I chose it.
right.
So it says, beautiful, decaying old house, standing proudly to win. The weeds vein your insides, they meet all your sin. Now mice run around the abandoned home where once lived a human with a pulse of her own.
So nice. So that's where the feeling of those homes, the old houses,
Yes,
they come, because there was some, like, you, it is not a Taj Mahal, but the person who was staying there, for him that was a Taj Mahal.
yes,
It was not a palatial bungalow, but
yes.
for someone it was the
It
entire
was their
life,
home.
it
It was
was their
their
home. So that's the feeling
Yes,
which
it
comes
had
out.
laughter, it had life, it had people, it had children running around. I
Right.
also feel for the home. I think the home has seen so many, experiences. The home has absorbed energies. The home has seen life and death and
Right.
pain, and the home has grown in beauty through the years.
I
So I
understand
think
that,
old
ma'am.
is beautiful.
I understand that.
So that's why the homes fascinate
So
me.
beautiful, ma'am. So that's where the thought. So we'll. I'm so glad that I was able to talk to you on
Thank
this,
you so
ma'am.
much. I'm much
And
humbled. Thank you so much.
and it was so nice for you to take us through this entire journey. And the most thing which is touching me is the feeling behind those homes. Like, you are able to see, you're not just able, just not painting the walls, you are actually able to see behind the walls,
Yes.
and those feelings which they come out, and it shows in all your artwork.
And thank you for this, because I thought it was more of an inward journey for me. I was addressing things which I had not thought about and which I had not addressed. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about me. Thank you.
So
Thank,
I'm
thank you
so
so
glad.
much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. So as you've seen that art doesn't have any boundaries, and जहाँ से हमने शुरू किया था कि कहीं पे भी किसी भी तरह की सीमाओं में अपने आप को नहीं बांधा है मैम ने. So we've seen that she has used all the mediums, all the material, all the surfaces, right? So let's not किसी भी तरह की सीमाओं में हम नहीं बंधे, हर तरह का एक्सपेरिमेंट करें, आर्ट को आगे बढ़ाएं. I hope you liked our today's episode. अगर आपको अच्छा लगा हो तो प्लीज लाइक, शेयर और सब्सक्राइब कीजिए, एंड ऑल्सो give us your comments in the comment section so that we can improve ourselves. Thank you.